So today we're talking with Jason Cassity with Real Broker. Jason is the team leader out in San Diego, and his team regularly ranks in the top 5% of teams in his county. Jason has a big emphasis on social media for lead generation. Today we're going to be picking his brains and going over what strategies are actually working for him today in 2024 that you can rip off and duplicate in your own market. Jason, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing fantastic, Malcolm. Thanks for having me on, man. You do know this because I've told you this, but I have used your content for years since I've joined Real Broker as explainers and FAQ videos. And the second you kind of pitched and asked me this, it was a hard yes. I look forward to this, and I'm really glad to be here with you, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm super excited to have you on. We've met at a couple of these Real Broker events, kind of mastermind and network. So let me ask you, in your team, what is the top 3 sources of business for your team right now?
Good question. Yeah, so I have a team of 5 here in San Diego, 6 technically, 1 admin. And so, like you said in the intro, I've been doing it for 13 years now. I've had my team for 5, give or take, 5 or 6. We generate a lot of business through online lead generation is probably our biggest inflow of business, right? So Zillow leads and Google pay-per-click.
Okay.
Obviously, like, anybody watching this, if you're an agent, you realize what Zillow is. It's kind of pay to play. You just write a check and you get a bunch of leads. We're still market-based pricing, so we're not flex. So it's better ROI for us. It's always, my entire career, probably last 7 years that we've been buying Zillow leads, it's about a 2 to 3x ROI.
Wow.
So we spend 1,000, we get 3, right? And so like, that's just kind of how that goes. This last year in 2023, it was like a 6x ROI. We had a really big year, had a couple, $1.5, $2 million closings off of it. So here in 2024, we upped that spend a little bit. Now, I'm not saying all of you should go out and buy Zillow leads. It's wildly expensive. Having a team is really kind of essential for that because it's speed to lead. You got to call that lead right away. So if you don't have that infrastructure, just skip to the next part. But online lead buying is still fairly profitable for us. So we're going to continue doing that.
I love it. Tell me more about that. What does your systems look like for that? Because I've dabbled with online leads and I never really had the systems in place to really convert those. Like, what is your conversion rate on some of these?
So last year was our best year, and we're closing at about an 18% conversion rate on our Zillow leads. On our Google pay-per-click leads, which are wildly less or more affordable, they're cheaper. Those leads can be anywhere from $15 to $20 a lead. Those close at like 1% or less. Mm-hmm. And so getting into like the psychology of it, Zillow leads, like if somebody's on Zillow, they're on there probably looking for home information. They're ready to go, right? Those are, to borrow like an old movie, like those are the Glengarry leads. Those are the good leads. Those are somebody who's probably really, really down the funnel. Google pay-per-click and Facebook lead ads to another extent, they may have clicked an ad and submitted their information, but they're not usually as ready. They need more follow-up. So those ads are way cheaper. There's less competition, but they're way further out too. So your conversion rate is way lower on those. That being said, like if you're listening to this now and you're just considering dabbling, Zillow's too expensive to dabble in. It's here in San Diego, the leads are $750, $800 a lead. So when we spend $7,500 a month, we're getting about 10 leads. Wow. And so we close those at about a 10 to 20% conversion rate. Like we're at 18% right now, but it fluctuates because they also scale it based on like how far out the lead was, whatever. Don't get into online lead buying unless you have a system in place. So that's kind of like what you just talked about. Like we have our CRM Lofty. The leads will come in. I have a team of 5 again. So like everybody's logged into their Lofty account at any given time. And when the lead comes in, it'll ping everybody's phone at the same time. And whoever's available can claim that, but you have to call within 5 minutes. That's the whole point, is like, if you're at a showing and you can't grab that lead, don't take it, because let someone else on the team take it. So that lead comes in, you call them right away, because usually they're still on your website, or with Zillow, they actually live transfer you. And then you set the appointments. Like, hey Malcolm, I saw you inquired about 123 Banana Street. I'm Zillow's premier agent here in San Diego. Wanted to see when a good time to set up an appointment would be, right? And so like that initial call is literally just to set the appointment to go meet them in person.
Wow.
If you miss that call, or like you try to call back 30 minutes or 3 hours later, that client's gone. It's like they've gone to 5 other websites. They've been contacted by 2 other agents, and they've forgotten who you are and what property that they inquired about. So it's almost a waste of money. It is a waste of money if you're not going to be able to call those leads right away. Zillow leads, you have that first attempt, usually a second attempt within maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Google pay-per-click, you better get them within 5 minutes, because like, again, if they're just coming through your website because they clicked on one of your ads, great. You got a phone number and an email, but when you call them the next day, they don't know who you are. Right. So you've lost that lead effectively. So that's definitely our biggest. And as a team leader, I provide those to my team. I haven't taken buyer leads in years, but my team members do. So they'll get those leads, and like that's our biggest influx of lead flow. And so like I want to mention it, but I do also want to be aware that if you're listening to this and you don't have the infrastructure set up, don't do that.
Yeah.
So secondarily, we do a lot of video marketing and social media. And that's where I would say if you're an agent, probably any agent, obviously these big mega teams who can do Zillow and stuff like that, that's great. But if I were building a business today from scratch, I would start using video marketing and distributing it on social media. That allows you for the cheapest, most bang for your buck. We all know you can literally just record with your phone. You get better and better as you go, but you could just record with your phone. You upload to social media, and then that distributes out basically to your database and your sphere. And you start talking about anything real estate related stuff. I would say that you should do hyper local content, the Ken Pozek, Alyssa Kernut, Dan Parker kind of model, where you're just talking about things that are happening in your local market versus agent centric stuff. And we could talk about that later. We'll talk about Real Broker and stuff like that and the agent attraction piece. But for the most part, if you're watching this from an agent, I would say video marketing yourself, talking real estate related or local related stuff is the best way to go. We generate clients that way. We generate a lot of agent to agent referrals over the last few years, which has been fantastic. And then, obviously it has the intangible of branding yourself so that when people are ready to buy, they think of you versus going to Zillow or Google because they've been watching your content for 6 months or a year or 3 years or whatever that
and which platform are you guys really focused on? Because there's a lot. Do you do all of them, or is it just a few?
We do short form vertical content on Instagram has been our bread and butter for 5 years, really 10 years for me. And so I look up to, again, if I could start all over, I would probably even scrap Instagram or do it differently. And I look up to Ken Pozek and Dan Parker. Those are two of my guys that I look up to as they're doing it right. And they're doing it based on hyper local YouTube content. And now obviously Ken, and they found ways to kind of bring it over to Instagram short format. But for the most part, they've built $50 million, $100, $200 million businesses based on YouTube local content. So one, my answer is Instagram, but the real answer should be YouTube. So I'll say those two things together. Now, Instagram, that's been just wildly easy for me. I got on Instagram back in 2010 or 12 or whatever, like when they got bought by Facebook initially. And so like I was just always on the platform. And so it was really easy for me to do like the Gary V kind of document, don't create. And so like I would literally just flip the phone around and kind of like show off what I was doing a lot. And it just worked. People like to be voyeurs and like look into your life and follow along. And so it's done a really good job of like brand recognition, I guess you could say, is like so that people think of me when they have a real estate need because they've been following me for 3 years, 5 years, 6, whatever. Then again, like I also have over the last 5 years or so done a lot more agent facing content, which again, it does have agent to agent referrals and it's cool and you meet a lot of people. But I think if I could do it over again, I would just do more hyper local content.
So here's a tough question for you. Do you think that most of your followers on Instagram, do you think that most of them are real estate agents or most of them are consumers?
That's not even a tough question. That's mostly, and I'll tell you this, Malcolm, because, and this is like, it's almost like if I could change this, I would. And it's been wildly successful for me, but I would never teach it to do this way. So back in like 2016, I met a friend, his name's Eric Simon. He runs the Broke Agent account. We met at a karaoke party after Inman Connect in New York on a rooftop, and we were good friends ever since. Somewhere around 2018 or 19, he wrote a book. He wrote a comic book thing, and I did a giveaway because he was a friend of mine. He wrote a book, and so I did a giveaway. He tagged me in the giveaway, and that day I got over 1,000 followers, like from his tag, and they were, obviously they were all real estate agents because that's who his following is. And I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world. I just got 1,000 followers. But the problem is it messed up my algorithm to the point where I started to like, the only thing that was getting engagement now was like agent facing content because I had all these agents that followed me. So then over the next couple of years from 2018, 19 to 2021, 22, I started doing more agent facing content because I wanted the algorithm juice. I wanted the engagement. And so now by 2022, 2023, my following almost exclusively was agents. And I was like, man, I've painted myself, cornered myself, put myself in this little corner of agent facing content. While it does have perks, right? I was getting agent to agent referrals a lot more than maybe the average agent did. And I was like going to conferences and seeing people I knew and meeting people, and it was great. I lost the ability, if I post like a San Diego piece of content, the agent in Grand Rapids that follows me doesn't care, right? And so the engagement is really low. And so it almost made me have to switch my content. And so it had perks. And now, I was at Compass at the time, I was at indie brokerage. Then 2022 enters, I joined Reel, and it's like, wow, now this could actually be really profitable and really good, but I wouldn't recommend anybody start there. And that took 10 years of growing that, and it's probably not the right way to do it. If I could do it all over again, I never would get those 1,000 follows. I would never, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, obviously you have friends and whatever, but I would stick to I talk about Alyssa Cornett a lot because she's one of my agent in my network, but she's a friend too. She crushes Instagram, all with like Spokane, Washington content. And I love how she does that on Instagram. Or again, Ken Pozek in Orlando. Like, I would do that type of content and never do it a piece of agent facing.
Can I share a story with you?
Absolutely.
I had the exact same thing happen to me on YouTube. So I was creating local content in my YouTube channel, 2017, 18, 19, 20. I was one of the very first people to generate leads from creating local content on YouTube. And then I think in 2020, I made a video, 10 hacks, how to pay your mortgage off early. Video exploded. It's up to 800,000 views on YouTube. And it literally doubled my subscriber count from 4,000 to 8,000 in like 6 months. But those subscribers are all around the country. They don't care at all about my local content. And same exact thing happened. My audience shifted, and it didn't make sense for me to make local content anymore. Like a community tour wouldn't do well. So I pivoted and started doing national content, but then I got burnt out and bored from doing that. And so, yeah, this is a very real thing on all the social media platforms. Is not about getting views. It's about getting views from the right audience. And if you kind of screw that up, like you can further, completely change your business model because of that. So that's so interesting that you had that happen on Instagram as well.
Yeah, it did. And like now I've gotten to the point where this year, again, I mentioned it 3 times in this call, but Ken Pozek, I really look up to Ken, and like he's now even kind of shifted his kind of model where he has the Orlando Reel, which is his brand account for all things Orlando. And then he's got his Ken Pozek stuff. And I've started to kind of contemplate doing the same thing. It's like, hey, I've created a separate Instagram called In San Diego, and it's only San Diego stuff. Has nothing to do with me or local, right? It's just San Diego. Like the pandas are back at the San Diego Zoo, and we got a Clippers G League team coming in, right? San Diego only. And then I'm going to try to grow that account now, and then keep my account obviously as, an agent, thought leader, kind of real estate-y related account. But I'm like, man, I have to pivot and start a second account because I can't now take this beast back to where it was. Wow. It's too late. It's gone. We talk about it a lot on these mastermind calls and stuff. It's like, it's actually sometimes really, really bad to go viral or get the wrong attention because of what we just talked about.
I have a video on Instagram right now. I haven't done a whole lot on Instagram. I have like, I don't know, 1,400 subscribers or so. And I made a video about me trying to use Photoshop's AI generative fill to try to fill in my balding hairline, and it gave me a bunch of ridiculous haircuts. And so that video right now is like 2 weeks old, and it's up to 898,000 views on Instagram. And I've been watching it and be like, okay, do I need to delete this? Do I need to delete this? And luckily, I haven't gained many followers.
Yeah, people just think consuming the content but not following.
Yeah, I gained like 50 followers. I was like, okay, that's not bad. If I started gaining followers from that, I would have deleted the video for this very reason. And yeah, my channel or my Instagram really is focused on agent content as well. I realize that is where all the agents are. I feel like the majority of our followers are other real estate agents.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a business model there. I talked to Katie, and she says that she gets agent to agent referrals all the time from her Instagram. And that's also a great way to stay in front of her SOI. The challenge with starting a second Instagram is now you have a second Instagram that you have to manage and create content for, and you're kind of doubling, and it's hard to grow 2 different channels at the same time,
Exactly. Yeah, because we're also selling houses, showing property, and I have a team of 5, right? So it's like, it's hard enough to run one channel, much less 2.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what's your content strategy on Instagram look like? Do you have a like series that you publish regularly?
No, and I always answer this question with the preface of like, I'm probably the worst person to ask this question to, because I have no cadence, or it's all based on just feel and creativity and cadence. I do try to post often. I spoke at the Rise conference last year, and I was on this social media panel thing, and there was 4 of us up there. And then they're like, how often should you post on Instagram? And everybody's like, once a day, twice a day, once a day. And I was like, guys, I haven't posted in like a month. And then everybody's like, oh. And I was like, I'm on this social media panel saying that I haven't posted in a month, but I'm like, I didn't. Sometimes when you're trying to be creative and you don't have it, like you can't just post for posting's sake, right? You have to, like, I don't know, like I'm kind of a creative person. I really care about what I put out there. So that being said, like I do, like looking at it right now, I do have like a little bit of a cadence where I post, a couple times a week. I do a lot of video content. I'm looking right now. So my last 10 posts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them are videos, right? So Reels is kind of king on Instagram. I do mix in a carousel post every now and then. And then I just do, I like to mix in just kind of thought-provoking, kind of agent-centric questions from time to time. So I'll do a couple San Diego ones, a couple like industry macro, this, interest rates dropped to 6.9% or whatever. And then a couple kind of like social proofy, local, just sold $1 million house, a few of those. So just a little bit of a mix, but I'm the wrong person to say, hey, I do three in a row here, 3 in a row here, 3 in a row here. It's literally cadence. I do work with a videographer. His name's Connor. He, here in San Diego. So we batch content. So he'll come in for 2 hours every other week, and we'll shoot 8 videos or something like that. And then I release them. I've always been like the worst with batch content, because like I'll get 8 videos and then I'll release them all in 1 week. And then I'll go 2 more weeks without posting, and then I'll get 8 videos and I'll release them all in 1 week. I never like stagger them out very well. But yeah, that's the easiest way for me to do it. There's no way I could do it every day to come up with something new. I have to batch it and then just release.
Yeah, I love that. Any advice on finding a videographer? I know that's a big challenge for a lot of people, is finding a good one.
Yeah. No, like our guy, Connor, he works with, he's been around for years. He used to work at Zillow, but he lives here in San Diego. He's also shot a lot of Katie stuff and some other stuff here. And so like, I've known him for years and years, even before he was doing video work. And so that was a little bit lucky. Like, obviously there's aspiring videographers in any market you're doing, you're listening to here that are trying to grow businesses. So like, if you can give them, some sort of a monthly income, maybe you'll get a better deal. Or, it's like, hey, once a month, for $1,500, can you come shoot twice, or big batches or something like that. I don't know, if you're committing to something monthly and you do like a 3 or 6 month contract, you can usually get the price down a little bit. But at the same time, you just find someone. The cheat code is just look around other people in your market and see who's doing good video, and then literally look up their videographer and just say, hey, can you work with me too?
Yeah, I love it. And I've struggled finding good like editors. And what I tell people is just trial and error. Like, go try 3 editors and see which one you like. Maybe all 3 are bad. Good, go try another 3. And you just have to keep testing until you find a good videographer, a good editor. Yep. And so your number 1 lead source is going to be online leads, and then social media and video content. Do you have like a 3rd lead source, or is
we do geographic farming as well? And when I say lead source, because like obviously most of my business now is database management, just past clients. We don't, Sean, you're not supposed to call them past clients, but like my clients that are in my database already, and then agent to agent referrals. I get a lot of, but the problem is with database and agent to agent referrals, and I always say this, is like, you can't just turn those on. They come in when they come in, but like, you don't know when they're going to come in. So like, there's no lever to pull. So like Zillow leads or Facebook video marketing, social media video marketing or geographic farming, you can always just spend more and get more leads. Like if your conversion rate is right. But with agent to agent referrals and database management, so to speak, you can't just turn that up more. I can't just make them sell or buy a house when they're not ready, or I can't make someone give me a referral. They just come in when they come in. And if you've built a successful business, you're going to get those when they do come in. But so when you ask me lead source, I would say my top 3 would be online lead generation, or Zillow, Google pay-per-click, whatever, video marketing on social media, distribution through social media, and then geographic farming. So we have a farm of about 1,200 homes that we send geographic like postcards out to. And usually they have a QR code or a landing page that goes with it. They go to the landing page, they can get a quick, market update for that specific home, and then they can drop in their address, get a home valuation, and then we get listings out of it. Obviously, we do our best to, you know, host awesome open houses and events within the farm. It's not just the postcards, but about a 1,200 person geographic farm too.
Wow. Yeah. How many years have you been doing that? Farming those neighborhoods?
Probably six or seven. Yeah.
And do you think that
it stopped in COVID for a little bit? Like COVID, we weren't mailing, and then it picked back up.
Do you think is it like the longer that you farm a neighborhood, like the higher the ROI is?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like don't expect, I think I've heard some Tom Ferryism or something like that. It's like you should basically budget a year's worth of a farm before you get your first listing in there. And if you get something earlier, awesome, gravy, right? Like you're winning. But it wasn't, you know, it's not sell, because people don't buy and sell homes, but every 8 years or whatever it is, you know, it used to be 7, now I think it's 8 or 9. And so like you can't just, depending on what the turnover rate is, like, and not everybody's going to use you too. So it's going to take a while to build up a farm. But then once you've sold, you know, a few homes in that neighborhood, you met a couple people through your events, you've hosted a couple parties, and then it'll start to grow. So you may have a year where you get 5 or 6 in the farm. You may have a year where you get nothing. It's just like, it's not usually going to happen in like the first 6 or 12 months. Usually it takes a little while.
Gotcha. So one thing I've been really focusing on a lot of my business is building systems and trying to systematize as much stuff as I can. Totally. What are some of your favorite systems that you have in your own business?
We use Lofty. That's our CRM. So all of our lead flow goes through Lofty, and then there's action plans set up based on the lead type. You know, so there's going to be, you know, a 9-point email / call / text that goes out when a new lead comes in. On top of that, I can keep track of everything. It helps me in my team meetings. We have 2 meetings. We have our team meeting, and then we have like an online lead meeting. So if you're on the team taking an online leads, we go over the leads that came in throughout the week. And it allows me to go in as the team leader through the Lofty account, see what leads came in, who contacted them, who claimed them, whatever that is. On top of that, we use Real Scout. It's a property search software, or like a property alert software. So say you want to buy like a 3-bed, 2-bath in Claremont under $1 million. I set you up on a search so that automatically you'll get emailed the properties as they come out. We also have all of our past clients loaded into there too with their addresses, so that every month they get an automated home valuation. I prefer Real Scout over some home bots and some other ones because it's really user friendly. Like on the phone, it looks really good. And then it gives them their Zillow's estimate, the Redfin estimate, and then your estimate. So it's like it's cool because they, like, most people recognize the Zillow logo and the Redfin logo, and so they're like, oh, cool, it's a good contrast. It shows all 3. And so those 2 things kind of cover our active buyers and our past clients, so to speak, our home sellers. And then we work with Curator as well, which is Jimmy Mackin's, you know, the marketing company. And we do a couple blast emails a week through there. A lot of times they just suggest what to send. You know, Jimmy will be like, hey, send this to all your sellers today. And it's usually some sort of a templated, cool Tom Ferry or Sharon-ism deal of the weeks go out, you know, those type of emails too. So basically every buyer is set up on a search, every home seller, eventual, you know, past client is set up on a home valuation. And then we're contacting usually twice a week via blast email. And then Lofty will tell us who opened the email and who we should, you know, it's like, hey, this person's an opportunity. They've opened your email 7 times and they've looked at 6 properties. You should probably call that person, you know?
Oh, wow. I love that. Yeah. I've only just started like incorporating my team into Lofty and trying to figure all that out. It's definitely a learning curve with that, but man, it definitely has some really powerful features in there.
Yeah, for sure. I took time at the beginning of middle of last year, I guess it was 23, and typed out SOPs for everything business related. So like literally like, hey, new online lead comes in, what happens? It's like lead is input into Lofty. We, you know, reach out to the referring agent and give them a referral agreement. If applicable, we put them into Real Scout, set their search parameters, send a follow-up email to make sure we have the search parameters correct. You know, put the husband and wife on a text thread together, name it something cute. And then once a week, we send a property in that text thread so that it's not just the automated is going out. It's once a week. It's like, hey, even if you know the automated went out, you could just be like, hey, I saw this one, thought of you, what'd you think? Right. Wow. To keep the conversation going. So we have we have Google Docs for every process, and there's 10 or 15 steps for every, you know, new listing appointment coming in. What do? You come to the office, you get the real listing book, you get our listing guides, you go, you know, you send the pre-listing email. So we have all of that typed out on a Google Doc as well for whatever, you know, there's like 6 or 7 different scenarios that you might need that.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's so cool. You know, one thing that let me ask you this: do you use their AI chatting feature, or do you prefer having like some kind of sequence of auto text?
No, I prefer to have a text. And so like Lofty, I think, does something where it like will auto text for you. But the problem with Lofty's auto text, and the reason I prefer using the phone, is twofold. One, when it auto text goes out from Lofty, it has to say like unsubscribe, press stop to unsubscribe. So like when I get those, I know it's a computer that I'm dealing with, like a robot. Whereas if I text them, it's not. Secondarily, the Lofty number is green. And whereas if I text from my phone and it's blue, right? And so like most people have an iPhone nowadays. And so like if I get a text from something green and it says stop to unsubscribe, I'm like, oh, that's an automated system. I'm not even gonna reply. If I get a text from a blue, I know it's an iPhone. I know I'm dealing with a person at least.
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. So you think your conversion rates are probably a lot higher in manually texting?
I think so. Yeah, for sure. I was just seeing a lot of people who type back stop, and a lot of these people are just online leads. You have no rapport yet. And so if you give them an out, they're going to take it. And so like if you type, if you call from your iPhone or you text from your iPhone, there's a much higher chance of at least having a conversation first.
Yeah. I mean, the only challenge with that is like just making sure your agents are actually doing that. Text messages. But it sounds like you're on top of that with your systems as well. One thing that Sharon talks about, one of his favorite quotes that I love is he says, to do great things, you need to do fewer things. And, it's really talking about a message about like, what is the highest ROI of your time? And one question I've heard him ask is, if you could only work 1 hour a day, what would you do? And I love that question, man. So what would you do? If you can only do 1 hour a day, you're really busy, you got family stuff going on, what would you do in that 1 hour?
I think the right answer is probably spend an hour in your database and following up to see. I think my answer is that I would probably spend 15 minutes or like 10 minutes engaging on social, what we call priming the pump, release a piece of content, and then spend another 30 minutes commenting on that content. Like I would spend an hour producing content every single day is what I would do. Yeah. At this point in my career where I'm at, the agent-to-agent referrals and the agent attraction piece, which we'll talk about later, have become wildly profitable, and it's nice to have, and it's been a cornerstone of my business now. And so like I would probably spend my hour doing that every single day. I think the right answer, and for maybe someone doesn't have like agent attraction layer, if you're watching this and you're at Douglas Elliman or Compass, you don't have that layer, then you want to spend an hour in your database. That's probably the most profitable thing you could do, is like literally calling, texting, and emailing 10 to 15 people a day, and your business will take care of itself there too.
I love it. That's the right answer. You got it right. You passed. Great, man. Well, hey, if anybody wants to follow you on social media, what's the best way to follow you?
Search my name, Jason Cassity, Cassit as in Tom, Y. I always spell it out because usually I get the IDYs, but Jason Cassity, I'm on social media. Yeah. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Some version of me is there. And then just shoot me a DM. I'd love to meet.
I love it. All right, Jason, I really appreciate your time today, man. It was a good conversation.